Hi, welcome to our first Balance and Footwork week. We are going to be working on lots of stability moves, lots of standing work, and a little bit of seated as well. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that you've got yourself set up with a chair. You need a hard-based chair. And if you want a little bit of help with balance during the standing exercises, make sure it has a high back as well, so you can take your hand to that for some support. So a kitchen chair is the ideal sort of thing. Also a good idea to have a rolled up towel next to you as well, just in case you want to put anything under your head or pop anything between your knees, just to check your alignment. And once you've got those things, then you're ready to get going. So if you need to go and get those things, then pause the video now. Otherwise, we're going to just start in a seated position today. So I'm going to come to my chair. And most of us, as we sit down on our chair, will begin to sort of just slump back and relax into it. But what we want to do in our Pilates setup is make sure that our feet are firmly grounded on the floor, knees are at a right angle, and we're going to really make sure that we pull that pelvis up into the correct position so these hip bones are level, the pelvis isn't tilting under, the tailbone is pointing directly down towards the seat of the chair, and we're squeezing up through our transverse abdominals as if we've got a great big corset around our waist, pulling up our pelvic floor that 20% as well, just making sure that we're protecting our spine, lengthening out through the whole of the back, up out through the crown of the head. Shoulders are down. Make sure that your knees are hip width apart, feet are hip width apart and parallel. Once you've got all that set up, lots to think about, I know, we're just going to start to direct our breath into our rib cage. So we're looking for that lateral thoracic breathing during our Pilates, which means that we're expanding into the rib cage. We're squeezing that rib cage shut again on our exhale, and we're drawing down into the abdominal muscles so that we take the effort of any move on the exhale, squeezing those abdominals that extra little bit, so we're working them hard and also protecting the spine on the greatest effort of each exercise. So we're just sitting up really nice and tall, taking that great big inhale in. Exhale, squeezing those ribs back together, drawing down into those abdominal muscles. Keep going with those breaths. Inhaling wide. Exhaling to squeeze those ribs back together. Squeeze those abdominals. One more nice big inhale. Enjoy the sense of slowing down your breath, bringing your focus to your body. Squeeze those ribs back together with your next inhale. You're just going to take those shoulders up towards your ears. Exhale to draw them all the way down. Inhale to draw them up. Exhale down. We're going to go one more time, just drawing those shoulders up. This time as you draw them down, squeeze them together behind you slightly. Squeeze those scapulae and draw them down towards your back pockets. So we've just got a little bit of an extra opening across that chest. Making sure we've still got that strength through the spine, we're going to turn our attention to our feet. So really make sure those feet are pressing into the ground, nicely grounded. And then we're just going to take a little bit of time to work on our toes. So see if you can press your smaller toes into the ground and just give your big toes a little bit of a wiggle. This is going to be harder for some of us than others. Just give your body a little bit of a chance for those connections to be made between your brain and the muscles. And then press those big toes into the mat, keep them still, and see if you can wiggle those little toes around. And as you're doing this, try and keep stability through those knees. Some of us might note that as we try and move those feet in different directions, that our knees roll out and we pronate our feet in order to get that movement. Try and keep the balls of the feet grounded into the mat. Keep those knees equidistant and just wiggle those toes. See what movement you can get. It will vary from person to person, and that's absolutely fine. And then just rest those toes. Feel like your balls of your feet are grounding into the floor, the weight's coming down through the heels as well. And we're just going to begin to press into the balls of our toes and lift our heels. Keeping the rest of our body really lovely and still. Press those heels back down towards the mat. Use your exhale to draw those heels up, seeing if you can get a little bit more flexion through the toes now. Drawing those heels down. Keep sitting up really, really straight. Keep engaging that core. Don't let that pelvis roll under again. And this time, if it feels right for you, you're going to go up as far as you can onto your toes and then rock back onto your heels and lift those toes, coming into a strong flexion of those feet. Lifting the heels, lifting the toes, and trying to keep everything above the hips nice and steady. So try not to use your torso to rock backwards and forwards. All that effort is coming from the feet, from the legs. For 3, 2, keep breathing. 1, and let those feet be still. We're going to take a nice big inhale here, starting to mobilize through the rest of the body now. Use your exhale to look over one shoulder, your inhale to come to center, and your exhale to go in the other direction. As you come back to center, your exhale is going to take your ear to shoulder, flexing your neck to the side, inhaling to draw up, exhaling over to the other side, inhaling to draw up. Starting to think about our arms and shoulders now. We're going to exhale to float those arms forwards, keeping those shoulders down. Press those palms down towards the floor as we press back and inhale, keeping that spine still as the arms come slightly behind us. Trying to extend that movement. If you can get those arms a little higher without the shoulders coming up, then do. Using that exhale to squeeze the spine as the arms come up. Don't let the arms destabilize you. Taking it slow and steady. This is just our warm-up, just getting our joints used to moving. Last one. On this one, we're going to take those arms straight up towards the ceiling. Bring our palms together. Bring our hands down towards our sternum and take our fingers into a cathedral position with our middle fingers and our thumbs joined in a diamond. Our thumbs are going towards our sternum, just towards the top of it, and our chin is just resting on our middle finger. Shoulders are down, elbows are wide. Take an inhale here. With an exhale, we're twisting from the waist. So keep those knees and those hips absolutely still. Use your inhale to come back to the center point. Exhale over to the other side. And inhale back to center. Keep going with this. We're going to do 2 more each side. Keep drawing up. Some of us might find that we want to slump slightly through the spine now. It's really important to keep drawing up as we twist, keeping those knees and hips steady. Take your arms down, take a nice big inhale up. We're going to exhale, draw those arms back down to our sides. Keep circling them forwards. Take that body forwards over the knees as we inhale. As we exhale, we're going to come up into a squat. If you know your knees start to knock together as you come up and use that effort, then pop a little towel in between them. So inhaling forwards, exhale, lift that bottom away from your chair. And inhale, squeezing your glutes to draw all the way up. Shoulders are down, exhaling, taking that weight back in over the chair again, back into the heels, coming down as low as feels right for you. Some of us might be able to just feel for the chair and then come back up. Others might not feel comfortable going quite so low. Work with whatever feels right for your body. Use that inhale to really draw up, lifting the crown of the head, squeezing the core, squeezing the glutes. Take that bottom backwards, take it as low as you can. This time we're extending the movement, if our balance will allow, to float up onto our toes. Bringing those arms up with us. Exhale. We're going to take those heels down, arms wide, and back into that squat. We're going to aim for 2 more if we can. Just take it, whatever range of movement feels right for you and your body. Take it slowly, elongate those breaths so you've really got time to feel what your body's limits are. Give your muscles time to adjust to the movements. Coming all the way up. This time keeping the arms there. We're going to press those heels down towards the floor, strong core. Take both arms down, take an inhale, and with an exhale, we're going to take our right arm up and over, sweeping over into a side bend, trying again to find stability through that midsection and the hips. Aim to be pushing those upper ribs towards the ceiling as we take an inhale and an exhale to squeeze back up to the center point. Take that arm down. Take that inhale, and with an exhale, we're going the other way, really trying to lift those top ribs and bringing that arm back up and over. Take an inhale to bring those arms all the way up, floating up onto those toes again if you can. And we're going to come into our roll down. So press those heels back towards the floor if you've taken that rise to the toes. We're going to take our tailbone tuck under. We're going to scoop under those ribs. And we're going to dive down towards the floor as if we're coming over a giant beach ball. Try and find a little bit of movement through each vertebra before you finally flex at the hips, coming down as low as feels right for you. If you're a little bit tight through those hamstrings, take a bend of the knees so you can get a little bit further down. We want to feel a stretch in that lumbar spine. Take your inhale at the bottom. Use an exhale to begin to peel back up. Drawing those ribs up towards the ceiling, scooping that tailbone back under to come back to that neutral pelvis position, tracing those fingertips up the trousers and coming up to your tall standing position. And we're ready to start our main phase exercises. So we're going to be using that chair a little bit to begin with, just for a little bit of support and a little bit of reference. We're going to start with swimming. If you find that this puts too much strain on your back because we're doing a lot of standing leg work, then feel free to take our swimming exercise down to a 4-point kneeling position instead. So I'm going to set up with the chair. Just trying to get into the right position. And I'm going to take both of my hands down to that chair, take my weight over my hands so that my shoulders are directly over my wrists. And I'm just going to find a nice flat back position. I want to feel engagement in my core before I even move. Find length through the crown of the head, all the way down to your tailbone. Push the chair away ever so slightly from the shoulders. Don't let those shoulders come up here. Push from those shoulders. Squeeze those tummy muscles as we take the left leg behind us Adjust your weight slightly. You might need to just shuffle your right foot over so it feels more central. We're going to take an inhale to press our weight back into our left heel. Bend that front leg so you get a lovely stretch through the left calf. And with your exhale, shift your weight back over your wrists. Find that point where you're balanced and lift that left leg as if we're coming into a swimming exercise. Place that left foot back behind you, shift your weight backwards and come into that calf stretch. And keep going with this rocking motion, just shifting that center of balance, making sure that as you go through the leg lift, that both hips remain pointed at the floor. Don't let yourself tilt over to one side. Keep both hip bones facing the floor. Find length through that leg. Don't go too high and arch into the back. Keep pointing that toe towards the back wall. If you want to deepen this exercise, you can really push that weight back as far as feels right for your body. Bring it back forwards carefully, just taking those shoulders over the wrists. And if you want to and you feel stable, you can take that right hand forwards, reaching from fingertip to toe. Bring it back to the chair, take the weight backwards. Use that exhale to squeeze the core as the arm and leg lift and reach, find that length. On this one, we're going to lift and hold. So keep that hand down if you feel that you need to. Lift that right hand if you can. Really find that stretch from fingertip to toe. And if you're able, take a light fingertip touch with that left hand too. It's working that standing leg really, really hard. If you find your balance, if you're able, bring that left hand tentatively up to meet the right one. Don't go past your body's limits. We're holding in whatever position feels right for us for 3, 2, 1. Fantastic. Bring those hands back to the chair. Take that foot down. Bring both feet next to each other. Come back into that flat back position. Take an inhale and just push that body weight back over the heels. Let the arms relax and just stretch down. Push the bottom back as far as you can so you're really getting into those hamstrings. And then bringing that weight back forwards over the chair. We're going to do another exercise before we do the other side. So we're going to come into our flat back position and we're just going to practice our kind of scooped mid-spine, ready for a little bit more engagement in our roll down before we come to the mat. So it's a really nice point of reference to help us get that mobility through that part of the spine that can be really tricky. And we're going to use a heel raise just to exaggerate the movement. So take an inhale in your flat back position. With your exhale, you're going to tuck your tailbone under, lift your ribs up towards the ceiling as if you're going into a cat stretch, and then float up onto your toes as high as you can to really exaggerate that flexion through that thoracic spine. Let the head just drop. With an inhale, we're taking those heels back to the ground. Our tailbone comes back to neutral. Our crown of our head reaches forwards to come back into a flat back position, length from crown of the head to tailbone. Don't let those shoulders lift up towards your ears. And as you exhale, you're coming back up onto the toes. So tailbone's going under, floating up, lifting those ribs, letting that head drop. Imagining you're creating a huge arch. And then floating those heels back down, finding that flat back position again. Just aiming for one more. Scoop that tailbone, lift those ribs, floating up. And just exaggerate that movement, however feels good for you. For some of us, this scoop under the ribs won't feel particularly comfortable. Just go as far as feels right for you and your body. Press those heels back down. Come back to that flat back position. And we're just going to bring the left leg in so it's about equidistant between our hands, but still the same distance from the chair. And take that right leg back behind us. Find that length through the spine again. Make sure that your shoulders are directly over your wrists. Take an inhale to press that weight back into the your right heel. Bending that left leg a little if you need to. Find a little bit of a stretch through the calf muscle. Really good to have that stretch out when we're doing so much footwork. And then bring that weight back over the wrists. Lift that right leg, keeping those hips facing the floor, keeping that core squeezed. Floating through that movement again. Take that weight back into the heel. Again, you can exaggerate the movement if it feels right for your body. Take that chest right down towards your thigh if it feels nice. But make sure that core is squeezed and the shoulders come right above those wrists as you come into the leg lift. This time, if it feels right for you, if you've got your balance, take your time to bring that weight back over your wrists. Find your balance with the leg lift and add in your opposite arm as well, if you feel able. Coming into our full swimming position in a standing variation. Use your exhale to really find that length from fingertip to toe. Make sure that your shoulder's not starting to creep up towards your ears with the effort of it. If your standing leg starts to tire, just really concentrate on that form and take a little break if you need to. And we're going to hold this one there. So find that stretch from fingertip to toe. Make sure that balance is directly over that one remaining wrist. If it gets too much, take the other hand down. We're really finding that stretch and that length as we come up to a fingertip touch if it feels right for us. And if you're able, bring that hand forwards to meet the other one. Whatever level we're at, we're holding for 3, 2, 1. Bring those hands down, bring that foot down, bring it all the way in and come back into that position where we're pushing our weight back into our heels, taking our bottom back as far as we can to get a lovely stretch through those hamstrings, through the side of the glutes. Enjoy that stretch. Take a little bend through the knees if you want to just push that bottom back further. And then come all the way up, finding a little lift of the ribs from the chair and coming through a roll-up position. Shoulders are back and down, crown of the head is lifted. And we're going to come into our side series. So our side series this week is going to be done standing. If you want a little bit of help with the balance, then feel free to take that high-backed chair and just have it there for your fingertip touch. I'm going to move my chair out of the way. And we're going to go straight into our side kick. So again, it's a lot of standing leg work. It is hard work. So if you need a break at all, then just take one. we're going to take all of our weight onto our left leg. Take our right leg to the side. Just take a second to set yourself up and make sure both hips are facing the front of the room. As we tire, our body's going to want to do this. It's hard work, but keep that form. Keep those hips facing the front. The other thing our body might want to do is, as we get tired, is arch into that back and take some pressure into that mid to lower back. Try and keep that core engaged, squeezing the ribs slightly down towards the hip bones so that this distance between lower ribs and hips doesn't change. We've got that strong core connection. So taking that right leg out to the side, hands are on our hips or on that little chair next to us for a little bit of balance and support. Take an inhale here. With an exhale, that leg is lifting. With an inhale, it's lowering back towards the mat. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. This might look like a small toe tap, or you might be able to take that leg a little bit higher. Do whatever feels right for you. You might feel like you want to bring that foot all the way down to the mat in between repetitions, or you might feel able to keep that foot floating. Keep going at whatever level feels right for your body. We're going to do 3 more. If you can, it's hard work, keep going. And on the next one, we're going to hold at whatever level we feel we can hold. Keep that core squeezed as we take an inhale, pointing our foot forwards. And then flex to take that foot slightly behind us. So we're doing a standing variation of our side kick. Try not to let that foot dip up and down. It's trying to maintain a level. And it's just coming forwards, activating that hip flexor, coming back, activating those extensors and squeezing into the glute. Squeeze that core so we're not taking it into the back. Aiming for 2 more if you can. That standing leg is really starting to shake and ache now. And then bring those feet back together. Take a nice big inhale and an exhale to roll down. Trying to find that scoop under the ribs that we really found when we were using the chair for that exaggerated cat stretch. But also just enjoying the break, enjoying having both feet on the floor, enjoying having a little stretch. Take an inhale here. With an exhale, we're going to begin to roll back up. Shoulders are back and down. Crown of the head is lifted. And we're just going to take a small stretch of the hip on that right hand side. So we're going to take our foot just across our standing leg. It doesn't matter whether you're down here or whether you're up here. Do whatever feels right for you. Take that hand to the back of the kitchen chair for a little bit of support. But we're opening up that knee and stretching into the side of the hip. The higher you can get that knee, the more of a stretch you'll get. If your foot is able to get all the way above that knee and you can keep it wide open and you still feel like you want to deepen that stretch, take a little bend of that standing leg, take that body weight forward slightly and feel a really nice stretch through the outside of that hip. Breathe into the stretch, whichever level you're at. And then slowly come out of it. And position yourself ready for the other side. So we're going to take our weight onto the right hand side now. Left leg is abducted slightly. Hips are facing the front of the room. Shoulders are down, core is squeezed. Take that chair to the other side of you if you want it for that balance. Take an inhale here and an exhale just to lift that leg. Inhale to come down. Keep pressing through the big toe of that standing leg. If you struggle with balance, really use those toes. Don't let them be passive in these exercises. Use them to squeeze the mat, squeeze the floor. Feel that little wobble through your foot and adjust. For 3, 2, 1, and hold it there. We're going into our side kick if we can. Take that foot forwards with a point. Take a flex and bring it behind you. Be really mindful of those hips still facing the front of the room. Be really mindful that that foot keeps the same level away from the floor, as if you're sliding it along a shelf. Don't let it dip up and down. For 3, 2, take a break if you need to, or this is the last one if you're able. 1. Ooh, bring those feet together. Take a nice big inhale, rising to the toes if you want to. And we're pressing the heels down, rolling down, finding that scoop under the ribs again. Tailbones tucking under. And we're coming all the way down into our roll down. Take an inhale here. Exhale, begin to roll up. Trace those fingertips up the front of the legs. Shoulders come back and down. Crown of the head is lifted. And we're just going to take that little stretch on that side as well. So keep hold of that chair for a little bit of balance aid. And then take that left foot across the right leg, opening up through the knee. Keeping that foot down on the floor if you want to. Bringing it slightly higher up the leg if you're able to just get a little bit more of an opening. Or bringing it right above the knee, taking that knee as far out to the side as you can, and even bending into that standing leg, just to deepen that stretch through the outside of the hip. Take a breath or two here. And then release slowly, take that foot down. Have a little pedal through those feet, just to release the tension. And we're going to come down to the mat, ready for a few mat-based exercises before we finish. The first of these exercises is going to be front lying. So I'm going to show you, it's actually the first 2, so I'm going to show you the first 2 exercises, so you've got an idea of what you're doing before we go through them together. So I'm coming all the way down to the mat. I'm going to place my head on my hands. So cross your hands over one another and place your forehead down on the mat. Remember just to watch these exercises first before you do them. Making sure I'm still in view of the camera. So just get yourself set up, tummy button away from the floor. First is our glute activation, and we're just lifting one leg and lowering. Small lift of the knee away from the floor, and then we'll go on to the other side. The second exercise is going to be our single leg kick. Squeeze that tummy button away, and we're kicking that foot towards the bottom and alternating legs during this exercise, with an option to come up onto forearms if you feel able. We'll go through that all together now. So come down to the mat. You can either roll down, come down onto all fours. You can go through a push-up, the downward phase of a push-up if you want to, however feels right for you to get down to the mat. So come all the way down, cross those hands over one another. Take your forehead onto those hands and try to make sure you've got some length through your spine from the crown of the head to the tailbone. Scoop that tummy button away from the mat as if there's an ice cube underneath your belly button. And bring your knee bend your right knee 90 degrees. Flex that foot so that the sole of your foot is pointing to the ceiling. And we're going to just squeeze through the glutes to lift the knee off the floor. Use your exhale to lift. Use your inhale to lower. Some of us will have lots of movement through this, and some of us won't have much at all. Either way is fine, but squeeze those muscles in the bottom to try and get a little bit of movement without the hips rolling from side to side. We want that pelvic stability. For 3, 2, 1, and then gently extend that leg and bring the left leg up to that position. 90-degree flexion at the knee, flex through the foot as well. Take your inhale here to prepare. Remember, scoop that tummy button away from the floor and exhale to lift that knee off the floor. Inhale down. Focus on that pelvic stability. For 3, 2, 1, and gently extend that leg back to the floor as well. And we're going to go straight into our single leg kick. So the key with this one is to not let that core go. If we relax into the core and we don't engage our tummy muscles, as we kick the foot towards our bottom, it's going to really put a bit of pressure on that mid-back. So make sure that tummy button is scooped away from the mat. As we bend the right leg in as much as we can, taking the whole pointed foot towards the bottom for 1, 2. Extend that leg back towards the mat with control. As the left leg comes in, 1, 2. Extend that leg. Keep going from side to side. Keep that stability through the upper body. Keep the core braced so that we're not taking this movement into the spine. And if you want to work the core a little bit harder, but only if you feel like you have that core engagement, and you mustn't take it into your shoulders, you can come up onto forearms into a sort of cobra position, length through the crown of the head, and then tuck the pubic bone towards the floor and the tummy button away. So we've got that strong spine, and then continue with the movement. If this is too much, or you feel like you can't pull the tummy button away from the mat in this position, then don't do it. Go back to the full lying position. We don't want to compress through the back. It's quite a strong movement, the single leg kick. And if we don't have the right alignment, it's not going to do us the good that we want it to. In this position, you need to feel almost like you're in half a plank. More activation through the abs is better than less. So even if you feel like you're slightly rounded here, that's better than really collapsing down. Aiming for 1 more each side if you can. And then taking the forehead down to the mat, arms under the shoulders, take an inhale and an exhale to push yourself back, bottom towards heels, coming into a child's pose, if that feels right for you. If it doesn't feel right to have your chest all the way down towards your thighs, then you can always relax into a child's pose, opening up through the chest with your bottom high. Either way, just take a few breaths, just relax. And then push yourself up to kneeling. Swing your legs around to the front, ready to roll down to the mat. We're going to do 2 to 3 roll downs before going into a shoulder bridge. If you feel like you want something between your knees to make sure that they don't come together and they remain hip width, then grab your rolled up towel. That's also going to help give you a little bit of extra inner thigh activation. So we're sitting really nice and tall, nice straight L shape through the back. As we exhale, we're going to take our tummy button away towards the back of the room, curving through the spine, finding a C shape. Tuck your pelvis underneath you and begin to lower yourself towards the floor, but not all the way yet. Take your inhale at a point where you feel you can hold it. Exhale, begin to round back up. And inhale, sit nice and tall again. We're going to do 2 more. Exhale, tummy button towards the back of the room. Move that pelvis underneath you so that you've got your balance. Find that place you can hold it. And rolling back up. Sitting nice and tall with your inhale. Exhale, coming back again. Take your inhale. And with an exhale, come all the way up. This time we're going to come all the way down to the mat. So if you can come all the way to the mat with control through a roll up, then do. If you feel like you want to put your hands or your forearms down to get down, then do. But if you're losing control, please use your hands. Don't just flop to the floor. Use that exhale, round your spine down towards the floor, coming down with control. This is the point where some of us might just need to put down our hands or our forearms, or keep tilting that pelvis underneath you, coming all the way down to the floor. Reach those fingertips as far as you can towards the opposite wall so those shoulders are stabilized and drawn along the mat, away from your ears. Shuffle your feet in towards your bottom. You want them quite close for shoulder bridge. Take an inhale here, and with an exhale, tilt the pelvis, push the pubic bone towards the ceiling, and begin to roll through the spine, lifting the hips as high as you can. Make sure that those feet are parallel. Lift those hips as high as they'll go. Take an inhale, and with an exhale, begin to take the spine back towards the mat, but try and keep those hips as high as you can for as long as you can as you press the ribs back towards the mat first, then working slowly down the spine, finally letting the pelvis and the tailbone return to the mat. Take a nice big inhale there, relax into that neutral position. Use your exhale to begin to peel up again. This time, really think about taking that spine off the mat 1 vertebra at a time. Squeeze those ribs as high as they'll go, but make sure you don't go so high that you're putting pressure on your neck. Some people at this point will have an impulse to get height by flaring their ribs up towards the ceiling. Keep those ribs down and stabilized. Use those hips to get as much height as possible. Keep squeezing through the muscles of the bottom and then return back towards the mat 1 vertebra at a time. If you want to, you can just keep perfecting that, rolling through the spine, or you can follow me, and on the next one we're going to hold at the top, keeping those hips as high as we can. And we're going to begin to lift one heel at a time. So take your inhale just to prepare. Find that stability through the hips as we exhale and lift one foot, one heel. Inhale, place it down. Exhale, lift the other heel. Inhale, place it down. Keep pedaling through those feet. Keep squeezing that towel between your knees if you've got it there. It's working the whole of the lower body, working the core. Try and stabilize those hips. It's harder with a towel than a Pilates ball, And finally, take a nice big inhale, hips as high as they'll go, and exhale to begin to roll back down. Coming all the way down to the mat. Take the towel out from between your knees. And then draw both knees in towards you. Give yourself a little hug. Hug those knees towards the chest. And just take a little roll from side to side. Massaging through that lumbar spine. Take the feet down towards the mat. Take an inhale here, and with an exhale, you're going to drop the right knee out towards the right side, opening out through the hip. Now, most of us will find that our left leg wants to go with it. Keep stability through that left leg. Draw the right leg up and switch sides. So open up that left knee to the side. And this time we're thinking about stability through the right hand side as the left knee opens. Draw it back in. Keep going from side to side, really focusing on that stability of the pelvis. If you want to take your hands to hips, so you've got that extra point of reference for your body, then do. Try and keep that anchoring side as still as possible as the other side opens. And if you feel like you want to progress this move, then take an inhale and an exhale to bring one leg and then another leg up to a tabletop position. Take an inhale here, and with an exhale, we're doing exactly the same thing but with both legs lifted. If you feel like at this point your hips want to flare to the, up towards the ceiling, take those legs back down again. Working from side to side. Keep those hands on the hips so you can feel that that pelvis remains neutral, that you're not being dragged from side to side by the weight of the leg. And if you want to extend this even further, you can take both legs up towards the ceiling. Flex at the feet or point at the feet, but keep the whole leg active as we take one leg out to the side, keeping stability through the other side. It's deceptively hard, especially if you lift your elbows off the floor. For 3, 2, 1. Draw those knees in towards you. And then bring those feet down towards the floor. We're going to take an inhale and an exhale to draw our right knee in towards our chest. Just take a couple of circles of your ankle here in one direction and a couple of circles in the other direction. And then with an exhale, send that leg directly up towards the ceiling, taking hold of the back of the thigh if you can, and just taking a little stretch through the back of the leg. Once you've become acclimatized and you feel like you've taken that stretch as far as you can, take a little point through the toe and a very gentle flex of the foot, alternating between a point and a flex, mobilizing through the ankle and feeling how that flex deepens the stretch all the way up the leg. If you want to deepen this even further, you can slide that left leg away and then gently bend that knee right back in towards your chest, taking that foot down towards the floor. Take an inhale, and with an exhale, draw the left knee in towards your chest and begin to circle that ankle. And with an exhale, take that leg straight up towards the ceiling. Keep that tailbone heavy to the floor. Try not to tilt that pelvis up. Get the stretch through the hamstring. And once your body's become acclimatized, you can begin to gently point and flex that foot. And then gently come into a bent leg position. Bring that foot back to the floor. And we're going to come to seated however suits you. So if you want to come through a roll up, then you can. If you want to just push yourself up to sitting, then you can. Or you can draw both knees in towards you. Use those tummy muscles to lift the nose and chin and upper body towards the knees, finding roundness through the spine. And just take a roll like a ball up to seated position. Sitting nice and tall. Swing those legs round behind you. Take an inhale. With an exhale, push yourself back into a deep squat. Take an inhale here. With an exhale, straighten out those knees, stretching out through the back of the legs. Take an inhale into the ribs here. Pull that tummy button and chest up towards the ceiling and use an exhale to begin to restack the spine. One vertebra at a time. Pull that pelvis back into the neutral position. Crown of the head is lifted up towards the ceiling. Shoulder blades are squeezed slightly behind you. And we're just going to finish by bringing our feet into that Pilates V position. We want about a 5-to-1 position with our toes and our heels are really tightly squeezed together. As we take our hands to our hips, we're going to inhale to prepare. Exhale to bend those knees, taking them directly over our second toes, finding as much flexion through those knees as we can. Inhale, squeeze up, drawing those inner thighs together, lifting through the pelvic floor, and then exhaling to float up onto our toes. Inhale, press those heels back together. We're taking this movement very, very slowly. Exhale, come into that sort of plie position, taking those knees directly over our second toes. Inhale, squeeze up. Draw those knees together, draw those inner thighs together, lift the pelvic floor and float up onto the toes with your exhale. Inhale, press those heels back together. Keep them tightly squeezed as the knees come apart. Keep lifting through the crown of the head, squeezing the thighs back together, floating up onto the toes. Coming back to that neutral position, heels together. We're just going to move our heels apart so our feet are parallel again. Hands are on our hips. Inhaling here, exhaling, floating up onto our toes and just beginning to pedal through our feet. Taking one heel to the floor, lifting up and taking the other. Trying to keep those hips as level as we can. Keeping that balance evenly distributed between both feet. Pressing into the toes, pressing into the balls of the feet. Again, feel free to go to the wall or to take the back of a chair to aid with balance. For 3, 2, 1. Take those heels down. Take a nice big in-breath to bring those arms up above your head. Exhale, draw those arms back down again. Nice big inhale. Scooping up all that wonderful sunlight that we've got today. Exhale, bring those arms back down. Final time. Inhale up. Reach that crown of the head up towards the ceiling. Bring those arms back down. palms of the hands facing the front of the room, shoulders squeezed ever so slightly behind you. Nice, strong posture. Thinking about your breath for one final second. Think about what you found difficult about your practice today. What you found a little bit easier than you thought you might. About anything that you might think you want to work on a daily basis. And if there is anything that you think, oh, I really need to work on that, then feel free to drop me a message or email me for any tips on daily exercises you could just incorporate into your routine just to work on a particular aspect of strength or mobility. Thanks so much for joining me today, and hopefully see you next week. Bye.